Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaptu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Janakalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjali Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. By now, in Yoga Sutra, we are definitely convinced about one fact, and that is yoga is an internal journey, antarpravasa, and no journey is possible unless we leave the bahya pravasa. If we closely observe ourselves, we deal with ourselves and we deal with the world. In fact, our whole existence is involved in dealing with the world. And the very first condition of a yogi is to dissolve the relationship with the world to its minimum. The kalam, the time that is allotted to us in the Jagruta Avastha, or when we are awake, is entirely consumed by our interaction with the world. Mind well, that is a mistake. The mistake is on two accounts. We do not know how to interact with the world. So we are interacting with the world in a wrong manner, and this wrong manner is consuming the entire time that is allotted to us. What it means is, my relationship with the external world is not the way it should have been, one, and in the wrong manner in which it is established now, it is consuming whole of my time. Now, if I'm involved in a wrong manner with the external or the outer world, Bahya Vishwa, how is it that I can start my antarpravasa, which then will take me towards Kaivalya? And that is why in a Yoga Shastra, the tools, the methodology, the instrument that is given to us to deal with the external world in an effective manner so that we can extricate ourselves we can free ourselves from the ties with this external world or the outer world, the Bahya Vishwam, is Yama and Niyama. How do you disentangle yourself from the external world is what Yama and Niyama tells us. Do whatever you feel like doing in the name of Adhyatma. Nothing will take you forward unless we practice Yama and Niyama, irrespective of which marga you are in. There are some fallacious thoughts we have that in bhakti, you can be just emotional about the God and things will be done. Also, there is a misinformation that we have that by reading few scriptures, we shall be done. Ending of relationship with the outer world and then redefining it is not an intellectual process. Intellectually, we can assess the situation. If there is a fire, you may assess how and what is the breadth and width of the fire, from where the fire has come, what is the intensity of the fire, but all that is essentially an intellectual assessment. The crux lies in acting upon it, implementing it. If that is the case, then unless we practice Yama and Niyama, and the word practice is more important. First of all, we do not have even the intellectual knowledge about Yama and Niyama. Our concept of truth, Satya, Ahimsa, Aparigraha, Asateya, and Brahmacharya is very shallow. Not to slap anybody is Ahimsa according to us, which is an absolute no-no for a yogi. The Ahimsa that is envisaged by Patanjali Maharaj or in Yoga Sutra is of a very high order. And so are the all yamas and the niyamas. The reason why we feel these yamas and niyamas are very, very strict for us is because we have gone into the bad habits so deeply that they appear to be very, very tight and constrictive to us. For a regular liar of many births, for a regular violent person of many births, for a person who has been regularly doing aggrandizement or collection of things, for a person who has been always thinking of making money and stealing the things from others, for a person who is subjected or victimized by the sense organs, yes, the niyama appears very strict. But mind well, it is because of nothing else but our own commission of adharma over a period of births. And apart that, the solution lies in practicing in yama niyama at whichever level you are, maybe by the doctrine of parisankhya vidhi. And a parisankhya vidhi means reducing the bad things that we are doing. A sharvilaka, a thief, a dacoit, if he wants to undertake yama and niyama, the first thing that he has to do is to reduce the number of days on which he will be doing the theft. For the person who is eating non-vegetarian food, the month of Shravana, he does not indulge in it for a month. This is called parisankhya vidhi. A chain smoker reduces number of his cigarettes to 10 in a day, is definitely a reduction, although not an abstinence. It is called parisankhya vidhi. So irrespective of wherever you are, whichever level and situation you are in terms of your own previous pressure of vasanas, you will have to work against those vasanas through yama and the niyama. As we already saw, yamas are prohibitive in nature, practiced while interacting with others, while niyamas are to be practiced constantly, incessantly within ourselves. I'm sitting quiet in the home. I'm not speaking to anybody. I am not acting. I'm not moving. Even then, I will have to practice the niyamas. When I'm sitting quiet for meditation, perhaps I cannot practice himsa or satya because I'm not speaking to anyone. But even when I'm sitting in meditation, the niyamas are to be observed perpetually, incessantly, 24/7 by everyone who intends to be an yogi. And amongst the niyamas, the first and foremost is shaucha. Shaucha, which in English means cleanliness. Again, the cleanliness is a very, very vulgar and abnormal translation of the word shaucha. The word shaucha in Sanskrita has a wider meaning. Shuchehe pavitratayah bhavaha iti shauchaha. Anyone who intends to be in Adhyatma has to practice shaucha at all the times. Cleanliness of the surroundings, cleanliness of yourself on the external aspect is vital, but not as vital as internal purity. The external purity can be obtained by scrupulous observation. Mind well, when we are practicing in yama and a niyama, a yogi is always alert, daksha, and careful, savadha. Swami Vivekananda very specifically said, I am not interested in any person, even if he declares himself as a Jivan Mukta, if he is in a dirtier environment with a soiled clothes, an abominable existence cannot be congruent with the higher life. The higher life is pure. We are going from lower to the higher life. We are going from less pure to the higher purity. The purity of thoughts, the purity of the body, the purity of the mind, and the purity of the surroundings. A yogi carries very less things with him because he practices aparigraha. Perhaps the best example known to us would be Mahatma Gandhi, who had 2 dhotis. If you still go to the ashram in Wardha, Sevagram, there is a small shelf in his hut where he is to keep his 2 neatly folded, absolutely sparkling white dhotis on those shelves. He had a timepiece always at his waist. The timepiece was clean. He had these spectacles absolutely clean. You must have seen Gurudeva's spectacles. They were sparkling clean always. And perhaps I would be seconded by Jairamji, who has seen him. Gurudeva's uttariya and his dhoti was always in pristine condition. It is said that he used to fold an envelope with a perfectness. What it means is, you can't be a shabby person and wanting to be a yogi. And what is a shabbiness? A shabbiness is presence of laziness. A yogi, when he decides to do anything, first he ensures the purity of all the things around. There is a purity in keeping the books. There is an order. Everything is orderly. There is to be a servant in British times, and even now he's called orderly. His job is to keep things in order. You have your books for studies in your cupboard, putting them in line as per their height, putting in a manner where you can read the cover properly, closing the doors properly, keeping your socks properly, folding your things properly, keeping your bed in a tidy condition, wearing your clothes properly, washing your clothes properly, cleaning your spectacles properly, sitting properly, sleeping properly. Everything involves shauch. And the most important part of the shaucha is the body purity. Purifying the mind is a difficult and internal process. Purifying the body is an external and not so difficult a process. So the body, this body, the sthula sharira that we have, is abode of whom? Is abode of Atman. If Atman, the God, resides in this body, then the body is not Sharira, but it is a temple. It is a mandiram. If body is mandiram which houses the Atman, then to hold a pure thing, the casing cannot be impure. The glass that surrounds the idol cannot be muddy. You can't see the murti. Cleaning the matter vestures is an important part of purity. How do you keep the temple called body, sthula sharira, pure? The bahya shuchi can be done with the help of the clay in the older days and the soap in the present days. Abhyanga snanam, snan, cleaning the body so that you yourself feel pleasant and so the others. The stupid concept of bed tea brought in by uncivilized people does not augur well with Yoga Shastra. There can be no Anna Bhakshanam unless the body is sanctified and ready for receiving the food. The instrument called sharir or the temple called body has to be not only kept clean by Bahir Shuchita, but also the Sukshma Sharira has to be kept in perfect harmony. Imbalanced Sharir, body, cannot hold purity for a longer time. Purity is Teja. The Teja Tattva cannot remain an insipid thing. So the body as an instrument, I'm still talking about the physical body, I'm yet to come to the mind. This physical body has to be in the state in which it was given to us by the Lord. The body has been taken for a ride by us. There is no need of disease in the body. A disease is an aberration. unless you have a adhidaivika, a congenital absence of one hand, you cannot do anything about it. But an acquired disease, an infection, cannot be the function of the body. So if the body gets diseased by blood pressure or diabetes, or in the modern language, any lifestyle disease, the true translation of a lifestyle disease is abuse of sharira. Forget about the abuse, we cannot misuse the sharira. And that is why the external purity can be done with the help of purifying things. Maybe with a broom you can clean this area around and keep it clean, dust free. But to keep the body pure, you have to mind what you eat. The first step in any of the margas in Adhyatma starts from ahara. Then comes vihara. Then comes vichar. If someone is under the impression that he will do sattvika vichara, but will eat anything, not possible. An aspirant, a yati who intends to be a yogi. Yati means the one who endeavors, one who tries. Yat is prayatnam. We are all at the base level. Mind well, yama niyamas are anyway meant for the inferior adhikari. We have seen that. So it goes without saying, first thing first, for the shaucha of the body, ahara needs to be focused. So a yogi cannot afford to eat the way majority of the people in this world are eating. It can't be the diet of a yogi. Or else you leave becoming a yogi. The lowest of the control is the control of the palate. If that is not possible, thinking of meditation will be the absolute absurdity. And what does the ahara do to the body? The body itself is made up of pancha mahabhutas and operating under the influence of three gunas. अष्ट कमल दल चरखा चाले पांच तत्व की पूनी 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे 3 गुण धर दीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी. Kabir Maharaj says, so beautiful and subtle is this body given to us, which is made with the Ashtakamala Dala, all the chakras. Then the Pancha Tattvas were brought in, and it was sprinkled with the Teen Gunadhara Dini, Trigunas. If the body is operated by Trigunas, made up of Pancha Mahabhutas, then not to disturb the trigunas in the body is the function of the diet. The body and the mind gets disturbed by disturbing the trigunas. So the thoughts, which is the ahar of the mind, and the food, which is the ahar of the physical body, these are the two external things that can disturb the equilibrium of trigunas. Our aim is to see that the body with a disturbed equilibrium of three gunas does maximum effort to inculcate sattva guna. Every thought that we think should bring in sattva guna. Every diet that we eat should bring in sattva guna. Bhagavad Gita has already dealt with ahara. The snigdha ahara, the katu, amla, etc. The food that we eat has to be sattvika. So this is the first part of the shaucha, which is bahir shaucha. We are still not talking about antar shuchi, but antar shuchi is not possible without bahir shuchi. Bahir shuchi is dependent on thoughts for the mind and food for the body, of which we are talking about the food which should be sattvika. Which food is sattvika? The Bhagavad Gita says, snigdha, tarala. That food which is closer to the nature is more sattvika. Why? Why is it that the food that is closer to the nature is sattvika? Because the shariram is made during the evolutionary process to digest a certain kind of food. So pizza is not our food. Bread is not our food. Even the rice is not our food. Shaka, vegetables. Phalam, fruits. Kandamulam, tubers. This body is meant for digesting that. Each of these things that are available in nature, which had always been the staple diet of the rishis and the munis, had adequate amount of water in them. We are so stupid that we make a bread or a pizza by drying out the entire water from it and then gulp tons of water to digest it. And yet we say that this kind of food causes the highest number of deaths from cancer in America, which is colonic cancer, which leads to this drier food leading to constipation. We are not even careful about the diet that we eat. As a first step of the shaucha, of the bahya shuchi, the diet one has to be very careful, because ahara has impact on thoughts. A tamasi ahara person cannot think of sattvic kalpana. On a larger scale, if you see in the society, you do not see sattvic ahar eating person fighting in the street and using abusive language. While most of the downtrodden people, poor people, where tamasikta is more. I'm not saying that all poor people are tamasic, but the criminals that you see usually eat tamasic diet. alcohol invariably happens to be the part of their diet. A diet like alcohol robs us of the purity, and we cannot go towards higher level of purity. The food that we eat has to be more close to the nature. One, it has also to be proportionate with what the nature expected us to have. We have been endowed with a body whose diet, whose quantum of food is proportionate with the appetite or the bhook, the appetite that we have. We eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, irrespective of whether we are hungry or not. We are driven by senses and palate towards the food. That's not what the system is. Food, when hungry, in a quantity that is needed for the body's maintenance, not for the liking of the palate. If one doesn't have a control on the palate, he should never think of becoming a yogi, because that is the lowest control that one can think of. And the very control that you exercise on the diet that you eat trains us to tune up our mind also. The fasts that are mentioned in the religion are nothing else but to make us aware about the ahara and the ability to control the palate. So the food has to be sattvika, and sattvika doesn't mean only the nature of the food. Let me give you an example. A glass of fresh milk is a sattvika diet. But a glass of fresh milk at the hands of a tamasika person is not a sattvika diet. Be careful about who makes the food, at whose hands you are eating. Everyone claims that the food at the mother's hand is the best. Mind well, everybody's mother is not a culinary artist. She is not the best cook, but she cooks with love, which is called the positive vibrations of the thought process that is there while cooking the food. When we do prasadam, we have the feeling in the mind that this food is to be eaten by the gods. It elevates the spirit while making the food. At a uccha vichara bhavana, if you make the food, there is transmigration of the thought process into the act that you are doing, and the food becomes pure. If this all looks like far-fetched, let me give you an example of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Maharaj. Thakurda used to eat food only cooked by Sharada Mata. So pure was his body that once a food cooked by Sharada Mata, but brought by another lady to him, was discarded by him, saying that it is impure. When we eat in the hotels, we are not imbibing the diseases that they are carrying. We are also imbibing the thought processes transformed into the diet, getting into yourself. So careful a yogi has to be about the food. As far as possible, self-made. As far as possible, that which has not touched the fire. A sannyasi never cooks a food, never touches a fire. That's why he goes for bhiksha. But he's a sannyasi. At the sannyasi stage, it is allowed to have food from outside because he has no choice. Since they are ativarnashrami, they can. But for the startup like us, we have to be very careful about the food that we eat. Limiting the quantity of the food. In the modern languages, the caloric component of the food. Today, the world is suffering from overweight and obesity. If we read Gorakshanath Samhita, in Natha Samhita, he has given the description of yogi, the yogi. The yogi has to be lean, agile, energetic at all the times. Our body is structured to remain absolutely enthusiastic and active till we touch our back to the bed. But we start yawning early in the morning. We feel lethargic at the end of the day. We say, I'm tired. This is something not in consonance with a yogi. A yogi has to be absolutely in control of his palate. He knows what he is eating. He knows how much he is eating. And he guides his mind what to eat, not that the mind guides him. As far as possible, the breakfast has to comprise of the fruits and the milk. Abstain from the cooked food as much as possible. Eat less. Meat ahar, eating less. If at all a cooked food is consumed, let that cooked food be not contaminated with the palatal afflictions through spices, onion, garlic. There are certain foods having certain tendencies which are not conducive for a yogi. The onion and the garlic, jati dosh anna, avoid them. Forget about liking or passion about a particular food. That is not done in yoga. Be neutral about the food. As Mahatma Gandhi said, eat with aswada, not aswada, aswada. No taste. The tongue has been given the testing centers just to avoid accidental consumption of dangerous things. Our tongue can test the spice because too much of spice can burn the stomach. So the testing instrument called tongue is there to avoid accidental wrong eating. It is not for entertaining the palate. Meat ahar, satvik ahar, and only when needed. Samaya ahar. So low the current generation has gone, the world is at such a low abyss that we have developed a culture of eating everywhere. You meet anyone, there is something offered to you. You go out, something is offered to you. Refrain yourself from all uttejaka peya. A coffee, tea indicates the weakness of mind. Don't ask a question, what does it make a cup of coffee? What is bad in it? It's not the question of bad. It is bad, and it is also testing the patience of your mind. If you have a grit, if you have determination, yoga is not meant for weak people. A weak-willed cannot be a yogi. A strong-willed can be a yogi. Be strong and firm. Say no and stick to it. Let there be no exception. When you control of mind and the palate gives enormous amount of satisfaction. You feel you are a courageous person. The virya develops in you. And mind well, this is the virya that is going to help us to move forward. As I told, this is the lowest of the niyantrana. The lowest of the lowest that we are practicing, although it looks like highest of the highest. So first thing, the outer cleanliness of the body and the surroundings, Bahya Shaucham, which in Yoga Shastra is called Mrud Jaladi Janitam. Mrud means Mrittika, the clay, Jala, water. So whatever is done by water and clay, in the modern language, the soap or the cleanser and the water is used for Bahya Shaucham. So bathing, cleaning yourself. We go and propitiate the God even without bathing. Every holiday happens to be the day of postponing the bath. For the yogi, there is no holiday. Every day is a day of sacrifice. Every day is a day of propitiation. Getting up early in the morning, keeping the bed and everything that we use tidy. Nothing around you should be in disorder. Unruly hair, overgrown nails, dirty clothes. None of this is accepted for a yogi. Kabir Maharaj has mentioned that the body is like a tambura, a veena. Ye tan thaat tambure ka, rachat tar marodat khunti. If you keep the body and the mind in good shape, rachat tar marodat khunti, nikasat rag hazure ka. If you want to listen to the symphony of God in this mind and body, keep the instrument clean. A musical instrument is played only when you have a certain type of metal drawn into a string and tensed or given tension to a particular level, then the swara comes from that. Similarly, this sharyam and manam, if it is in a proper shape, like a drawn wire, then it is ready to receive the Lord within. Bhagavan Vasudeva shall never smile to such a person who is not clean. Gurudeva in Hong Kong, after a lot of persuasion, mentioned the fact when he was asked, "Are you not God?" And the answer, after a lot of persuasion, which he gave was, yes, God is always in search of those bodies in which he can descend, provided they are pure. In surgery, when we do the surgery, a good surgeon, when he starts doing the surgery and completes the surgery, is supposed to do a thing called tissue respect. It is taught to us as a surgeons. Tissue respect, my professor taught me while teaching surgeries to me. He told me to have tissue respect. What is tissue respect? He said, the Lord has made this body and you are cutting it now. So suture it back properly so that nothing is misplaced. Let all the tissues come together in the same manner because you cut it apart. That's called tissue respect. Similarly, this body is given by the Lord. Keep it in proper shape. दास कबीर जतन कर ओढ़ी जो की त्यू धर दीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी. Kabir says, I was given the body and the mind by the Lord. I used it perfectly fine and gave it back to him. If only the Bahya Shuchi is practiced properly, then only it is possible for us to go for Abhyantara Shauch. Abhyantara Shauch is the one who has cleaned. Now, there is another esoteric concept behind cleanliness, behind Shauch. And the esoteric concept is, if all this which is there around me, including me, is one, if it is the same consciousness that is dwelling into everything, if there is nothing else in this world except the consciousness interacting with another consciousness through the Prakriti, then everything is pure. There is nothing impure in this world. If at all, if it is appearing impure, it is I as an ego who has made this impure. The biggest impurity is impurity of ego. All other impurities are following after the basic impurity called ego, ahankar. And since the yogi aims to ultimately destroy the ego, he starts purifying himself from outside, then he comes inside and then undertakes a journey to ultimately destroy the bastion of ahankara and go beyond that, the asmita. After the diet has been taken care, the external food has been taken care, the external environment has been taken care, Abhyantar Shaucha starts. Abhyantar Shauch is Chitta Dosha Nirmalam. So we saw what is to be done with the diet, the ahar. Naturally, for the purity, vihar is also equally important. What do you do depends on where you are. Only the great souls like Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Mahatma Gandhi can remain pure right besides the prostitute while sitting there. Both of them had an occasion. Gandhiji was tricked by his friends in taking him to a prostitute, and he walked back unharmed. Ramakrishna Paramahansa was taken to a prostitute thinking that he's mad and he would be all right by contact with a woman, where he even went and folded hands to the prostitute. So these souls are born great souls. We are not one of them. So our vihar has to be very, very careful. The first thing that you choose for vihar is your friends. The one who fails in choosing the friends fails in choosing the vihar. The maximum influence that we have in our life and mind is from the friends, then from the professional acquaintances. You may have a very bad environment in the office, but because it is your duty to go and do the job there, you will be forced or compelled to be there. The vihar there cannot be terminated. But our acquaintances, our parties, our so-called friends, Lord Krishna is called a Sakha. If at all you want to have a friend like Lord Krishna. None of the mortal friends are going to help us in our sadhana. In fact, we are surrounded by the friends who say that, what is this stupid adhyatma that you're talking? We are surrounded by the friends who ridicule us when we talk about adhyatma. Get lost to them. Go away from them. Do not interact with them, howsoever rich they may be. Mind well, most of the rich in this world are beggars in adhyatma. There is nothing you can get from them. And most of the beggars in adhyatma are the richest people. Most of the beggars in this world can be the richest in the adhyatma. All the saintly people never had a single dime with them, yet they were the richest in the world. Be friends with them. In thoughts, be friends with Gurudeva. Consider him as a Sakha. Talk to him from the mind. Ask him, Gurudeva, would you like to have a glass of beer? And what will be the answer? Then throw the glass away. Gurudeva, I am a sattvic food I am having a glass of milk. I want to offer it to you first, and then I want to take it. Keep bringing these thoughts to the mind. These are called pratipaksha bhavana. So, ahar and vihar, be in satsang as much as possible. Cancel all those trips with the friends to go to Switzerland. What will you get there? It all looks nice, but you will again be talking about the worldly things. Sit in your house, think of spirituality, and you will realize Switzerland there itself. Switzerland is in the mind. Yes, the environment does make things conducive for the thought process, but it all depends on the mind and the purity of the mind and the higher level in which the mind is operating. That is the reason, Bahya Shauch Once we attempt that properly, then only we can start with the Abhyantara Shaucha, which is Chitta Dosha Nirmalam. Khadanam, Grahanam, Gomutradi Sevanam, Amedhya Sansarga Virvarjanam. This is all outside. For the Abhyantara Shaucha, it is this Sattvika, not Ahara now, but Sattvika Vichar. As the body needs Sattvika food, for the mind now we need Sattvika Vichar. What is this Abhyantara Shaucha? What is the Chitta Dosha Nirmalam? How do we undertake that? And how Shaucha has to be done first, because without Shaucha, next Niyama Santosha is not possible. All details about the Abhyantara Shaucha, we will have it in the next session. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Sanjay ji will wait for some questions.
Hari Om. Sanjay ji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Every creature in this world, including us, human beings, are seeking only happiness through our actions, various actions. So happiness is ultimately, when we examine, it is finally can be defined as God, Ananda, isn't it?
Yes.
So then why this world is divided into spiritual and material? This divide itself is killing us in our thoughts. That has to be, perfectly understood. This is my doubt.
This division that we called, which is the pain or which is the cause of the problem, the division between this world and that world, this itself is called avidya.
Yeah.
Not knowing the real world as created by the Lord. In the Lord's world, the Rasa Leela is going on. We can't see it, we can't be a part of it, because we have created another world through our ego by the use of the mind. Annihilate the mind, destroy the ego, and get into the Lord's world. Then you are in one world. There is only one world created by the Lord. We have created another world of ours through our mind. That is why the universe is in me. I am not in the universe so far. The day I recognize that every constituent of the world is nothing else but consciousness, there will be no mind. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Sanjay ji, just a little clarification on this Pratipaksha Bhavna. I mean, normally, from what I've heard is that during the time, even in Brahma Sutra, the person who's questioning every time you say something, it is like a questioning the, it's like in a debate, right? If you're saying something right, then somebody questions that, and then there's a clarification whether it is. So there it is taken in a manner of sort of questioning or, diametrically opposite of what. Whereas, is that understanding right? Or
No, Pratipaksha Bhavana needs to be, we are coming to that shloka soon. The next shloka after the Niyama is Pratipaksha Bhavana. We will see in detail again. But Pratipaksha Bhavana means I feel like attracted to a woman and the thoughts start coming in. Now this is against the Yama Niyama. This thought is against the Yama Niyama. Now, how do I stop this? By telling the mind that, oh, please don't think about the woman. Oh, please don't think about the woman. That is not Pratipaksha Bhavana. Doing an act to stop what is going on. For example, I will not do violence. I will not do violence. This is not Pratipaksha Bhavana because you are talking about violence. The word violence is coming in your talk. Pratipaksha Bhavana is not negative substitution. It is a positive dynamic thinking. Meaning what? For example, if I keep thinking about Gurudeva, how nice my Gurudeva is, how Tejapurna he is, suddenly the bhavana in your mind becomes so great that almost tears come in your eyes. Now what happens during this bhavana? The thought of violence or sex or anything did not come at all to me. This is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. Inculcate constantly that the thought of bad things does not even arise anywhere. Stopping the bad thought is not Pratipaksha Bhavana. Inculcating the right thought is Pratipaksha Bhavana. As far as your own son or child is concerned, does the thought of killing him comes to your mind? Not at all. Why? Because prema bhavana is already there. So when prema is there, killing cannot be there. Himsa cannot be there. So how do you develop ahimsa? By not doing himsa? No. By inculcating prema. How do you stop drinking? By not going to the pub. No, that is not Pratipaksha Bhavana. That is why we fail. How do you stop drinking? When you start enjoying the normal food more than the drinks, you will automatically leave it. Why? The other thing is now so good. The normal food or the normal water is so good, you are not touching the alcohol anymore. This is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. Inculcating the diametrically opposite in such a manner that the tree of what you have inculcated does not let others to grow. The bad things do not grow because I'm full of good things. That's why Vivekananda, Gurudev, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Maharaj, they did not try to be good to us. They were goodness by themselves. The badness did not lurk around them. This is Pratipaksha Bhavana. Hari Om.
Hari Om. I think that's very, very clear now. Just one other thought, which is, when you're pursuing the yogic path, it's fine. But, my question is, we understand that in this world, there are always this, the two opposites exist. And I go back to the fact that the people, when the whole world was in darkness, India or this region again was at the absolute pinnacle of spiritual growth, of learning. I mean, we had 220 BC, you had Takshila, you had all of that, right? Universities, which were the equivalent of highest learning. Now, when you go down this path of, improving, going down on the spiritual path, there exists in this world, there are also forces which are not at this level. And this is nature. right? So a lion will eat a lamb. That is nature. So, for a yogi, I'm just thinking, the entire, Nalanda University was destroyed apparently, from what we read, just because this particular Khilji who was there, he was not getting cured. I mean, this is the story I've read. And he asked somebody from there, his own people could not, cure him. And then he asked for some help, and somebody from Nalanda came and helped him cure. But because he couldn't handle this, he destroyed burnt it alive. I mean, the entire place. This is just anecdotal, or it's probably history. I don't know. I've read about this. But the question is that to live in a world where there, exists, let's say, negativity, or there exists these evil forces, how does one balance this? Does one just be, one view of thought is that you concentrate on yourself. You don't bother about anybody else. The other larger view is that these things exist, and it happened thousands of years ago, and, it continues to happen with Afghanistan now also. I'm just saying, so how does one tackle this negativity, because the reason is, and this is just I'm just trying to balance these two thoughts. No doubt on what the yogic path is, because at the end of the day, despite all the knowledge and yoga and this, I'm saying even on the physical dimensions, we say there are, so many energies, but India finds it difficult to get even Olympic medals. I mean, this is like the first time, right? So we've not been able to utilize the power even currently in terms of excelling. So just a little dichotomy, just to understand what is the right way to go about this.
You see, we need to understand this in a larger perspective. First of all, wherever you are born, whichever situation you are in, you have a sphere of influence. In your sphere of influence, with the tendencies with which you are born, the Swadharma or the Swabhava, you're supposed to progress forward. This world is nothing else but a stadium where you are allowed to exercise to move forward. But everything depends on your sphere of influence. If you are put into the role of a foreign minister or a prime minister of a country, by virtue of your previous prarabdha, then the thought about what is happening in Afghanistan becomes extremely relevant. In current, my sphere of influence, whatever I may do, I shall not be able to effect or affect what is happening there. When your sphere of influence is not capable of influencing anything else, that means by virtue of your birth, the mandate hasn't come to you to act on those issues. It is better to keep away from those issues, or else it becomes dissipation of energy. If Gurudev was so knowledgeable and self-realized, why didn't he directly went and guided people in 1971 war? Was he not a witness to what was happening? Yet he motivated the soldiers, continued to give encouragement for the motherland, told everyone that serve your country within his sphere of influence, which even today we see as a pratidnya or the prayer of our mission. What I mean is, what is happening in this world is nothing else but the continuation of individual, that is Vyashti, to large things, Samashti, depending upon their prarabdha. It is not the individual prarabdha. A desha has the prarabdha of all the people within that desha. Marusthala, the desert land, had a prarabdha of not even having water. It is now most prosperous. So there are prarabdhas related to individual, communities, countries, geographical areas. Based on that, things are happening. As far as the progress is concerned, The time when Takshila was having the biggest possible, Nalanda was having the university, which was subsequently then desecrated by Bhakti or Khilji. At the same time, people used to fight with each other with the help of the bow and arrow, sometimes with the gada, and break the head. We are not doing that now. So is it a progress or a regress? The society was, there was hardly anybody who was living beyond 35 or 40 years of age because of continuous wars. Have you progressed on that front or not? Medically, have you progressed or not? But these are sectional outlooks. But at the same time, has the Brahmanism, that I'm talking not from the caste point of view, has the Brahmanism means the decreased, going up to Sarpini and Utsarpini, which keeps happening in cosmos, because depending upon everybody at the end is trying to move forward, because everybody has to reach the God. While doing so, he develops more and more consciousness, comes to the human life, misuses the developed consciousness, again goes back, again comes up through the Bhoga Yoni into the Tyaga Yoni, again misutilizes, goes into Tiriyak Yoni or the Preta Yoni. This is a continuous journey. In this whole kaleidoscope of the things, thinking that I am the Lord and I am related to everything and I must keep things right, does not really make sense. Only person who has a right to say that the world should be set right is the one who is right himself. Right now, our main problem is we are at problem. We are at fault. The purification, the rectification, the correction is needed for us. So first thing first, charity begins at home. Think of yourself first. Then we will see whether I will be useful for others or not. First, be useful to yourself. And when you start becoming useful to yourself, then automatically you become useful to others. Guru Deva did mission, self-realized for doing welfare of the world. His becoming Jivan Mukta itself is enough for the welfare of the world. Tapovan Maharaj did not do anything. He never intended to get involved into the karma. Like a pure jnani, he went and stayed there in Himalayas. He did not keep any contact with anybody. But through one of his disciples, the whole India got revolutionized. So remember, sphere of influence, very difficult to ascertain. As of now, it is better to be introspective than extrospective. So that is why factually what you say is right. These kind of forces will continue to happen. That is why the word used is yada yada. That means it will keep happening, not once. Yada yada hi dharmasya. That means this will continue to happen. It's an ocean. The wave will go up. There will be a crest. Again, it will go down. There will be a trough. That is how the samsara is. That is the reason why most of the realized yogis and Jivan Mukta say, ye samsar kagaj ki pudiya, bund pade ghul jana hai. So this is not something, this is ephemeral as they call it. And on the top of it, what you are calling as Afghanistan and Taliban and Nalanda and Khilji and everything, the whole thing is an illusion. That is what the Ajatavad of Gaudapada is. Unfortunately, we are not there in that place. The child, while playing with another child, feels this is the world. Only the adult knows that this is a child's play. Bajichaye atwal hai duniya mere aage, hota hai shabe roj tamasha mere aage. These worlds are getting produced and destroyed every now and then in front of my eyes. That is what a Sufi says. But that state we have not observed, not experienced. So we are not able to really experience it. We find all this as real. That is another explanation. Hari Om.